So, welcome to the next edition of the Rare Business Podcast. With me this morning, I have Bernadette Jiwa. Is that Jiwa? Is that right?
That's right.
Fantastic.
Perfect.
So, Bernadette, thank you for being with us today. First of all, can you tell us a bit about you and the work that you do?
I am a brand story strategist and I'm based in Australia. I actually did live in the UK for quite a number of years,
Uh huh.
originally from Dublin, but I've been in Australia for the last 8 years. And what I do is I help businesses to tell better stories
Mm-hmm.
about their brands.
Yes. What does that mean?
What that means is that we look at the business from a holistic standpoint. So we're not looking at tacking marketing onto the end because that's old marketing and it doesn't work anymore. So what businesses are finding is that attention is really hard to get and to keep now.
Uh huh.
So they're having to think of other ways to woo their customers, if you like. And if
Okay.
you think about the businesses that really succeed, if we think of top level businesses like Apple, they just tell and live a really good story. They don't have to tack marketing on at the end. They don't have to do lots of advertising because we just can't help talking about them. So that's the secret to the brand story is basically the big secret to their success.
Okay. Fantastic. Now, I think I think you might actually. Might be what the book is about, but I don't want to blow the surprise. But you just recently written your second book, I believe, and the second book is called The Fortune Cookie Principle. Um,
That's right.
can you tell us a bit about the book and also why you wrote it?
The reason I wrote this book is because people, my clients, and just people, I could see people in general struggling with the concept of how to market their businesses in this new sort of internet age where they were not sure how to attract people. They were not sure how to tell their story really well.
Mm-hmm.
What's really interesting, the reason it's called the fortune cookie principle is that every product or service, whatever it might be, has got two elements to it. There's the cookie, which is the commodity part,
Uh huh.
and then there's the other part, which is the meaning. So the things that we attach all the value to, like the design, the way it makes us feel, that's the fortune. And unfortunately, most businesses get hung up on promoting the actual commodity instead of working out how to tell a better story about the fortune, if you like.
Well, indeed. I mean, and to be fair, fortune cookies never taste that good anyway.
Well, that's right. That's I gave a TEDx talk about this,
Yep.
and yeah, when you think about fortune cookies, nobody buys a fortune cookie or enjoys a fortune cookie because of the actual product, the biscuit. It
Yeah.
doesn't taste that great, but we love them because of the joy they deliver at the end of a meal.
Well, I guess it's it's yeah, they the little fortune inside it makes a really bad tasting cookie matter.
Well, that's the point, isn't it? So
Yeah.
when you think about all the reason that we buy things isn't because, people don't buy what you do, they buy how it makes them feel.
Sure.
I don't know if I'm sure lots of your listeners will have come across the Simon Sinek Start With Why book and the Golden
Mm-hmm.
Circle. And Simon, really articulated this idea well that people don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it.
Mm-hmm.
I think actually it's a little bit more than that. Yes, people can sense your intention in your brand and your why and your purpose and your values are part of your brand story.
Yeah.
But actually, what they're really buying is how it makes them feel.
Well, I think that's true. I mean, I'm sure you're familiar with I think it's a saying that comes from Theodore Levitt, who said
Yeah.
way back in the day, people don't buy quarter-inch drills; they buy quarter-inch holes.
Yeah, well, that's one of the quotes in my book. So
There you
nicely spotted. Yeah, that's
go.
right.
So, but in the book, you talk about. I mean, you really start drilling into this and actually helping people think about what's the fortune, as it were, in your fortune cookie,
Mm.
and you drill it down into 20 keys or the keys to the kingdom, as it were. I mean, can you tell us a bit about them and sort of why you chose them, and also do brands need to have all of them, or can they have a combination thereof?
It depends on the business that you're
Right.
in, and this book is not meant to be prescriptive.
Mm-hmm.
It's meant to be it's a framework and it's a starting point.
Okay.
I believe that the concept will work for any size of business, from a solopreneur just selling handmade cards on Etsy to somebody who's running a Fortune 500 company.
Right.
So they're all things to consider, each of the keys.
Uh-huh.
So the reason and how I came up with them is I just began, this watching people struggle with their marketing and
Right.
trying to, creating products and good products, but then trying to stick their marketing on to the end and not understanding how to differentiate and what was unique about their business. So it was a case of, instead of trying to add the marketing on at the end, coming up with building your brand from the inside out, if you like, which
Uh-huh.
is what brands like Apple do.
Yes.
And I had a look at lots of small brands, challenger brands like Dollar Shave Club, Warby Parker, and worked out what it was that they were doing really well to engage with people in this new age of, where people's attention is harder to get and keep.
Yeah.
And then I unlocked these 20 keys.
Okay. I mean, it's. I mean, I must admit, I just recently got the book, and this was all scheduled very last minute, very last minute. But there's some fascinating things. I mean, what is you talk about a changing era of business and business, but very specifically marketing. I mean, what do you think has fundamentally changed? Is it that we've changed as people, as customers, or is it just that the technology's changed around us, or is there anything else that's fundamentally changing? Are businesses getting better or worse, getting more lackadaisical? What's the thing that's really changing that we as businesses need to be aware of?
The two things are, yes, we've changed because we're not willing to sit in front of adverts anymore. I grew up as a child of the TV industrial complex.
Yeah.
And ads in those days, in the 70s and 80s, were not viewed as interruptions as they are now. So people now have the power to choose what they're going to watch, listen to, absorb, read.
Mm-hmm.
They don't have to pay attention to your adverts anymore. That's the first thing. And the second thing is that the internet's given even small brands and social media and all of these different aspects of the internet and having our own platforms.
Yeah.
They've given us an opportunity to engage with our customers and clients, to understand how they feel, and I don't think we're making the most of that opportunity.
Okay. I mean, but I guess in a way, I mean, that shift has been happening for the last handful of years, I guess, and particularly fueled by the internet and social media. Or the internet. I think is the fundamental foundation, and social media is the accelerator. I would suggest, but that's a massive shift for businesses, and it's a massive contextual shift, but also requires a massive behavioural and activity shift as well. I mean, crikey, a lot of traditional businesses will just feel lost right now, don't you think?
The thing one of the mistakes that we make is actually treating social media like another advertising channel. So,
Yeah.
Trying to push our messages out there with the shouty ads and things. And the reason that I wrote this book is actually going back to basics. If I think about butchers or people who've got products, who had products in the days when my mum used to go shopping, and they knew everything about their customers, and they stopped to pass the time of day with them, and they chatted with them, and they created value around their business in other ways that weren't just about having to put special offers out there. They were generous, and they got to know their customers.
Mm-hmm.
And they knew what business they were in. They knew that they weren't just about selling meat for that day. They knew that there was something around nurturing and, wanting to be a good housewife or whatever.
Yeah.
They had a bigger reason to exist than just putting selling that product.
Hmm.
And I think advertising and mass media kind of made us lazy, made
Oh.
us forget about the important things.
You know what? I think that is interesting. I mean, and I think you're absolutely right. I mean, technology is responsible for a lot, but it's also responsible for, as you say, is it's responsible for a lot of noise and also for making us lazy as well. And sometimes
Mm.
it's easier to send a text or an email or whatever rather than just picking up the phone or walking around to see somebody.
Mm.
And I think what's fascinating is how the human touch, whether you use technology or not, but the human touch nevertheless can be the thing that differentiates people in this world of ever over, abundant sort of ones and zeros.
Exactly, and it even applies to big brands like Lego. I write about Lego and Pampers and bigger brands as
Hmm.
well in this book because Lego was going south. It was really not doing very well
Yeah.
in the early 2000s, and the new CEO managed to turn it around. And he said he spent 2 years asking himself this question, and the simple question was, why do we exist?
Hmm.
And he said they'd forgotten their purpose, they'd forgotten what they were all about.
Hmm.
They'd diversified too much, they'd gone down too many different routes, and when they got back to that and structured their business around their purpose, they began to fly again.
Yeah. I mean, and it's. I think which really get great is when you actually see some businesses, big businesses that actually get it. There's
Mm.
a recent piece of marketing which I'm sure. Do you remember the washing super powder stuff called Vanish?
I do. Yeah.
They've just and I've read about this before, but they've just done this, or they've continued to do this campaign called Tip Exchange, which it's a Facebook hub type thing. And what it is like a bunch of their customers are making videos and helping people figure out how to get, say, BlackBerry out of a white
Huh.
T-shirt, which is fantastic because actually it's not about them; it's about what their customers do, what they can achieve. Vanish just so happens to be the bit in the middle,
Absolutely
but it's
fantastic.
but it's brilliant because I looked at it and went, that's one of the best ideas or campaigns I've seen a big brand do when it's related to social media and Facebook and things, is because it's not about them and it's not about stuff that
Yeah.
they're giving away. It's about stuff that their customers are giving away, i.e., their knowledge. And I thought, oh, whoever. I mean, I was sat there in front of the TV just applauding.
Mm.
Finally, somebody's got it. But
So they were thinking about the value they deliver beyond, just this is a product,
well, exactly.
this is a commodity.
They're not selling units.
So, like Method, for example, they're another great brand if we're talking about brands in the cleaning space.
Yeah,
They delivered all kinds of different value with design, with helping people to making a better product, a green product, helping people to come on board and become brand evangelists almost for them.
yeah,
Their design being a huge part of their story. The other UK brand who I think does a phenomenal job, and I think there are some great food entrepreneurs in the UK. So
yeah,
two brands I think that your listeners might know. Well, obviously Jamie Oliver is absolutely phenomenal at telling a really good story in different channels.
yeah,
He's right on Instagram. His story is very consistent. I think he understands the business he's in very well. He's not just about filling people's bellies. It's about something much more than that. And
yeah.
the other one is Jimmy's iced coffee, for a small challenger brand, doing a phenomenal job of storytelling and differentiating in an essentially boring place in the supermarket, which is the milk aisle.
Yes. Well, I don't know them. I have to look them up.
Yeah, they're really interesting little brand who are doing great things in the UK.
Fantastic. Well, never quite got my head around putting ice cubes in coffee. Um, That's a bit of a conceptual and sort of flavour leap for myself, but I'll definitely have a look. I'll see if I can buy some for somebody to give it to them and ask them to try it out. But if I was to say to you, I mean, I think we've established that all these principles, they're a bit of a pick and mix, but they apply to all sorts of different sizes of businesses. But if
Mm.
I was to say to you, imagine I'm a more of a traditional sort of business, and I'm thinking about I feel like I'm waking up from my slumber, and I want to try it. And I know I've got a good business. I've got good track record. I care about what I do, and we've got customers that care about that care about us and what we do. But we really need to sort of refresh and reinvigorate our business and our the things that and our place in the market. And I get hold of your book, and I think, blimey, that's brilliant. Where do I start?
Start at the beginning, because I've ordered it in a way that actually is meant to be progressive. So there are questions at the end of each section. But the first key is the truth. What business are you in?
Right.
Car companies don't just manufacture boxes to get people from A to B.
Yeah.
What business are we in? If we're Volvo, we're in the safety business. If we're Porsche, we're in the excitement business. So
Right.
you need to get hold of that before you do anything else. Then purpose, the reason you exist,
Yeah.
your vision, what impact do you want to make in the world, and what are your values, and then how do you how do they help you make decisions around everything you do, guide your behaviors in your business.
Okay.
Your people, your products are the next thing, the value you deliver.
I
And
mean,
then
it may actually be that as well. If you go back to if you right to the very beginning and you ask yourself, what business are we in? Um,
mm,
I guess there could be multiple answers to that, couldn't there? Depending on the customers that you're serving, if that makes
well,
sense.
exactly. If you think about, there's a brilliant video online, and if people just go on YouTube and Google that Steve Jobs marketing is all about values,
Uh
and
huh.
he came out with this line, which was, we're not about making boxes for people to get their work done, although we do that well.
Yeah.
We believe that people with passion can change the world for the better. So they were all about helping people to be creative and enabling people to see what was possible for them. And I think that's where brands need to be. That's the space every business needs to be in today.
Yeah. Well, I mean, also going to really focuses the mind. So, what do we do? It's not about what you think you do. It's about the as you say what do you help your customers do? What do you help them achieve? I mean, for example, you could say a lawyer's not in the legal business necessarily. They're in the business of helping people buy houses
Mm.
safely, which is
And one of the things we actually forget in business is we think our job is to change how people feel about our product or our thing.
right.
And in actual fact, our job is to change how they feel about themselves. When they're close to our product, when they buy our product.
Yeah, because actually, yes, because we're our product, our service is about helping them live their life better, I guess.
Yeah, and the best brands in the world and the most successful businesses in the world don't just go out there and tell their story and push messages out at customers. They become part of the customer's story.
Yeah, yeah. No, I can't remember who said it, but somebody can said you need to make your customers the hero of your story or the
Mm.
heroes of
Well,
your story, and I think that's a really it's a great sentiment, but it's a real truth in of itself. How can I make my customers that the heroes of my story? You write yourself out of the script in a way.
all the disruptive innovations that have happened recently, or tiny shifts, have been about not just disrupting industries. We talk a lot about disrupting industries,
Yeah,
but in actual fact, what's happened is we've disrupted people. Apple again. I'll use them because they're an example that everybody gets.
yeah,
They didn't change the technology so much as they changed how we felt around the technology and how we used it, and how we can't live without it now. So they disrupted people.
yeah. I mean, I guess on that sort of stuff. I guess my question would be, I mean, here's the I was thinking about that, and I wrote a little question down. I said, "Does Apple invent stuff, or does it just make it better and make it matter?"
What Apple does is it changes how we feel about what's possible for us.
Hmm. Yeah. The other thing I was thinking about is, I mean, I think, and they do it very, 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 very well. I mean, and they make, I mean, because I was thinking about the range of products, and I was thinking, MP3 players existed before the iPod, but
Mm.
they made it, they made it matter for us. They allowed us to connect with it better, I guess, in a way. I mean, existed before the iPhones, and as did laptops before the. I mean, I'm speaking to you now on a MacBook Pro. Um,
Mm.
it's you know, and
One
I
of
think
the quotes from one of the things I say in my TEDx talk and in my book,
yeah,
because it's so important. You know, Steve Jobs didn't give us a 32 megabyte music player, which is what those music players were. He gave us 1,000 songs in our pocket. They
sure.
completely reframed. You know, they took it from a commodity to something different.
Oh no, indeed. I
To
mean, that's what I mean. It's like it's they make it matter, but they make it matter to us
That's right.
personally. But I think it's like it's not just the one story for everybody, but it's actually individual stories
Hmm.
for every individual. So Bernadette, I'm just keeping an eye on time. I mean, that's fascinating, and a really some big questions for businesses to think about, particularly going forward and in this modern era, and how they connect with people, how they make what they do matter, give it meaning, how they tell their story, how they position themselves, how they fit in. I mean, is there, and starting from the beginning with the truth, what business are we in, is a great place to start. Start at the beginning, I guess. But is there anything else that you would like to add, sort of top tips or just questions that you think actually these are things that entrepreneurs or businesses should be starting with before we think about sort of wrapping up?
There's a couple of things. One is to think about what a brand is. And I think there's so many definitions out there and people get confused. You know, my brand is my logo, my tagline,
Yeah.
all of that stuff mushed into one. And really your brand is a brand with is just a product or a service with meaning attached to it. So something without meaning attached to it is a commodity.
Mm-hmm.
But when you attach meaning to it, it becomes a brand. That's
Yeah.
the first thing. And the second thing is standing in your customer's shoes is really underrated. I think to really stand, I
I
was
must say, not
blogging
here on my blog. My choir in the background is singing now.
to, I got this email from a local business the other day,
Mm-hmm.
and it was a really heartfelt email. It's a great little business, but she was saying her business was really struggling and could be, make an appointment. And I was thinking, I'm not sure how she wanted me to feel when I opened that email. So I think begin with the end in mind, which is not your end, not how, what's your goal necessarily for you,
Sure.
hitting your targets or your profits. It's to think about how does my customer want to feel and how am I going to get them there?
Yeah.
Those two questions.
Fantastic. And then final question, Bernadette, that I always ask people when I interview them, and that question is there anything that you'd like to shamelessly plug?
Well, I'd like to shamelessly plug my book,
Of course.
if that's all right with you,
Of
because
course.
I think it's three. Well, I don't know what. I think it's probably about £3 in the UK on Amazon.co.uk, and I think for the amount of value, if you just even answered one set of questions in there, I think your business will be better off.
Fantastic. Well, I will make sure that we get all that linked up and get people pointed at Amazon once it all goes live. And just thank you for your time and for telling us a little bit about the book and sharing a few insights with us, Brenda. That's been fantastic.
Oh, thanks for having me, Adrian. I really appreciate the chat.
You're welcome.